Hey, everybody, and welcome to Tea Talk Thursday. I hope you guys are ready because I got some opinionated ladies on here, and this is about to heat up the internet. I just need to let y'all know we about to heat up the internet. So, for those of you who don't know, my name is Tamika. I'm the mouth of IG at Tamika Talks, and I'm the thought leader at Life and Pumps. And I created Tea Talk Thursday really to have and to create organic conversations around current events, topics, and things that are of interest to us. In full disclosure, I did not care about Jada and Will and what they were doing in their marriage. But it seemed that everybody I know, because they know I am so opinionated, were like, I can't believe you have not said one word. And I said, I did say a word. I don't care. Like, that should be enough. And people were like, no. You should listen. You should watch. I initially only watched the first like 2-3 minutes of the show, and then I deleted it because I was like, still don't care. So I did sit down and watch it, and I realized that it is more than just the entanglement and kind of the discussion. So I thought it was a great idea to bring some other opinionated ladies on with me so that we can talk about this and we can really dissect, kind of what happened and why it is kind of important for everybody to know. So we will let everyone introduce themselves. Anitra, you're up.
Hello, everyone. My name is Anitra Durant Allen. I am the chief mom at the Mom on the Move, where I help busy moms and teens get more done in less time with less stress. And I'm also a marriage and family therapy intern, scheduled to get my degree in marriage and family therapy soon. So this conversation was front of mind for me. And we'll save this for later in the conversation, but I actually think entanglement is the correct word for what happened because there are many different ways to enter relationships. When you are emotionally connected to someone, it is far more difficult to disconnect and you get entangled in that situation. I think when you really listen to what Will and Jada were saying, the emotional connection was far more impactful than any physical relationship there may have been.
Absolutely. All right, Catherine, you're up.
Hi, y'all. So I'm Catherine. I'm the creator of Yoked, where we are building covenant marriages through love and laughter. I am a certified pastoral care counselor, married to a pre-licensed mental health counselor. We do a lot of marriage counseling and marriage ministry stuff. So I absolutely had an opinion about this whole situation. I kind of feel like I'm going to be the unpopular opinion, but I'm going to say it anyway. And because everybody, you have a right to say, I don't care. I don't care what they were doing in their house. But, seeing people look to them as an example and be like, you know what, if they did it, I can do it too. And I'm like, that ain't how that work.
All right, you're up.
Hey. Oh, sorry.
That's okay. My name is Dr. Melissa Tate Screws. I have a private practice here in Charlotte, North Carolina, named Cohesive Counseling Associates. I have been doing counseling with many populations for the past 15 years or so. And I do a lot of marriage and family counseling and couples counseling, premarital counseling. So this was definitely a topic I was interested in. Not so much about Will and Jada. I kind of don't care about Will and Jada, but I think the content is very relevant in many homes around the world. And a lot of y'all acting like you don't have your own entanglements, but that is going to be for the next hour of discussion.
No, you did.
Yes, I did.
Wow. Oh, you get hate mail. Once again, you get hate mail.
I'm the bad guy. It's all good. Me and Catherine are going to be the bad guy.
Yeah, we here.
You're up, Crystal.
Hi, I'm Crystal Curry, and I have a private practice in Charlotte, North Carolina called Compass Life Skills and Counseling. I thought that the situation with Will, Jada, and August was very interesting. I love counseling people who attempt to find parents and partners. So I'm excited about having this conversation.
I might be a little scared. I feel like I should disconnect because y'all damn, y'all didn't even let the people get on here first and watch and ask some questions. Y'all get in. Oh my God. Okay. I don't even know where to begin. Okay. Let me see. My God. Okay. All right. Okay. So Anitra, come on. Tell us your thoughts. What did you think of the show? All of that. Yeah. Y'all totally made me like lose my train of thought.
Okay. So I'm just going to be totally honest, full disclosure. I was interested in what happened from twofold perspective. Like I said, I'm an intern in marriage and family therapy. And so understanding how people engage in their relationships, gets me excited because I'm kind of nerdy that way. But also, I myself have been in an entanglement.
Thank you.
And when I was listening to what Jada was saying, the part of me that was there and understood what it felt like and understood how being emotionally connected to someone can lead to an attraction, not necessarily physical, but can lead to something that you want to do, where you want to be with somebody in a deeper way. That's real. Like, I mean, let's keep it all the way real. We are human, and we might be married and we might be committed, but we're still human. And the thing that we're attracted to in the person that we are committed to is the same thing we're attracted to in other people. We just turn it off or try not to address it or ignore it with those other people because of the commitment, but not because of who we are. And our humanity gets in the way when we find ourselves in these entanglements. And, I never had a physical relationship outside of my marriage, but I was definitely emotionally attached to someone. And anybody who knows me knows that that was totally out of character. And so I listened a little bit deeper because my entanglement happened when I was grieving my father. And there were so many other mental health challenges that I was facing, emotional voids that I had, that I heard what she was saying. I heard her pain. I also saw Will's anger. Let's keep it all up.
Yeah, you can't miss that.
We can talk about why he was angry, but I empathized with the part of Jada that led her to the entanglement, and that's why I say it was an appropriate word. Now, she was not being fair because she was not being direct, and she should have just came out and said, "I was in a relationship." Yeah. But I think entangled is a great way to explain it because you go into it for one thing and you get caught up, and then it's hard to unravel that thing and to walk it back. So I agree with Dr. Spruce that we need to be more honest about what happens in our own lives. And I can say that I get it. I understand it. I don't condone it. And I'm not saying that it was right, but I understand it. And I have that empathy for what happened between them because of that.
Okay, that's good. So I think we all agree that we don't condone it. We don't think stepping out of your marriage, whatever the case may be, is a good idea. So I think we're all in agreement on that. Where I'm just concerned, I definitely don't feel like she was being honest. And I feel like she used the word entanglement to make it cute. And that's the part I didn't like. So that is the point where I felt like, I don't want to watch this anymore. Like, we look to influencers because that's what we are. And we expect them to tell us the truth. So when I log on and I see you talking and you're throwing an entanglement and trying to make it cute, there's nothing cute about having a relationship outside of your marriage. There's nothing cute about that. And so that for me is what I didn't like and why I didn't feel like entanglement was the proper word for what she had done. Now, emotionally, what you're saying, absolutely, that was an entanglement. And I think that just as who we are, we all get into positions where that happens. I feel like oftentimes it's more men than women because we kind of see things with a broader vision and we pull back. Whereas men, when they start talking, they kind of just let it all out, especially if they feel comfortable. They just start saying, oh yeah, my wife this, I hate her. She don't want to cook. She don't want to clean. She don't want to do this. And then it's that woman who right there listening. And she's like, oh, really? Let me help you. Well, you know what you should do. So in my experience, that's what I've seen more of. I've seen it more coming from the side where the man gets entangled and, and whatever happens. But Catherine, come on, tell us your thought. I know, right? Exactly. Look, you see, I'm sitting back. Let me get ready.
Okay, so there were like so many different things that I was thinking about when I watched that video, and just like Dr. Curry was talking about the parent and the lover situation. Like I'm just like, okay, first of all, I didn't even know who this August dude was. Like I didn't even know he existed before all of this happened. And like I Googled him and then saw the 2017 table talk. So I'm like, okay, now I'm going down this rabbit hole, and you've got this person. August was the friend of one of her children. I don't even know who it was. And they were like, he is mentally broken. He's hurting. He's looking for all of these things. I'm going to help him. And then you cross the line from I'm going to, be your savior to now we sleeping together. Like that's just on that level. That's like so not okay. And like that, I think that's what hurt me the most was because just from the outside looking in, this is someone that he trusted and he allowed himself to develop those feelings for her. It should have been her, responsibility to say, okay, I acknowledge that you have these feelings for me, but we can't do this. But I get the part where whatever she was lacking in her marriage, she's like, okay, well, now I can find this and fulfill this in this relationship, this entanglement with this young man who is young enough to be my child, and, let that relationship happen. That just wasn't okay with me. Like why would you do that? Like, oh, it just made me mad.
No, I completely that when I first saw, when he came out, I didn't realize who he was. And I believe that friends with Willow. Not Jaden, not even the older kid.
Willow brought him to the family.
Right.
And was like, my friend is going through this. That's exactly what happened.
Exactly. Yeah. Absolutely. Right. And so that for me was like, are you really dating someone that your child could potentially be dating? Like, I don't care who, like, I feel like date who you date. I don't care. They could be, as long as they're legal age, that doesn't bother me. But you're putting your child in a bad position. One, because you are married, to their father. Two, what happens if this goes haywire and then the conversation becomes something different? Right. So when I had the time to really look into who August was, because quite frankly, I had no idea who he was. Apparently I knew his songs, but I didn't know who he was. And I realized like the mental issues that he had and the health and all of that. And they're talking about him in the show like he's a child. So I'm like, you're calling him Og, you're giving him the little nickname like you do with children. So for me, it was so disturbing because I'm like, you acknowledge that he's a child, but you got into a relationship with him. That is a bigger issue that y'all need to be talking about on this red table. But wait a minute, we have some comments. Let's see. The key is saying, yeah, there is nothing cute about that. Man, we all agree with that. So Tanya wants to know, how can you put any stipulation on an open marriage?
Okay, that's the other part. Now, okay. I am not in their marriage. I do not live in their household, and I can only rely on what I've heard through social media and gossip sites and this and that and the third. If the situation was, we have an open marriage, we can go out and be with another person as long as you let me know about it. You tell me, the details that I need to know, and we agree that it's just going to be this one thing, then you go out on your open marriage agreement and start an entire new relationship and get invested in that relationship, and then you bring somebody else into it. I mean, men are not stigmatized by one night stands. Women are like, oh, I can't just sleep with somebody and just hit it and quit it. Like, that's not okay for us to do. Society speaking, it's not okay for us to do. But you can say, I'm in an open marriage. We love each other. We come together. We have our unit. But if you need to go out and be with somebody, go ahead and do that. But you had a 3-year relationship with this dude that had a mental health issue.
Wait. They were dating for 3. Well, they were entangled for 3 years.
He was on the red table talk in 2017. They have been enmeshed with each other for 3 years.
So I'm
no, wait, no. We gotta come on, y'all.
This is not just like
Yeah, Crystal, come on, bring us something. Bring it.
This was not something that was just like, it was a one night stand and, I hooked up with this dude because he was available and I'm going about my business. They had a full-fledged relationship.
Okay, so let me say this. I'm not under the impression that they had a full-fledged relationship for 3 years, because even when they talked about it at the table, they said, oh, this was 4 years ago. So I was under the impression it took place maybe over a series of months. Right. And that it had been, that Will knew about it. It came out. Will and Jada were not planning to get back together. And now they are, they got to the point where they talked about it before they got back together. And being at this point, it seemed to me that I felt a lot of their frustration because they didn't want to revisit this difficult time. Mm-hmm. They said very clearly, he said, I wouldn't even plan to talk to you again. So, like, if you went and was messing with whoever, okay, it's not that he authorized it, but he was just like, I wasn't planning to talk to you again. So I felt the frustration from the perspective of, I hate that we have to revisit this again, and I hate that we have to revisit this publicly because I don't want to talk about it, and I don't need other people to talk about it. I really didn't know that they were in a relationship for 3 years. So neither here nor there, however long it was, for me, when I saw everything unfolding, and I had no idea, I don't know. I saw the original Table Talk with August Alsina. In this one, when she made the announcement, I hadn't heard what he said. So I just got invested because I was like, this is really interesting. And I saw that they were under the microscope and again, vilified for this entanglement. But I think this type of thing happens all the time. Now, whether it fully manifests into a physical love affair where divorce is on the table, that's a whole other thing. But I think this happens all the time. I see couples on my couch all the time. When you feel a void in and where you are in your current relationship, you're going to look to fill the void somewhere else. Right. Whether it's I'm gonna fill the void at work, I'm gonna fill the void at church, I'm gonna fill the void with this bottle of alcohol, I'm gonna fill the void with this man who keeps flirting with me. Mm-hmm. You're going to fill the void some other way. And that is not new. The word entanglement is not new. I do think she was minimizing it with that word, that it was kind of the sugar coat, like she didn't want to say she had a relationship. She said entanglement. I was glad Will said entanglement. Like, really?
Yeah, right?
Entanglement. And then our people, of course, made it into a whole song.
It was hilarious.
I couldn't stop laughing. At the end of the day, it was not anything new that doesn't happen in everybody's relationship. How you choose to focus on that void is really the determining factor of whether you end up like a Will and Jada in August, or whether you just refocus, get to counseling, talk to your pastor, whatever you need to do to get recommitted and fill that void in your marriage. So that's kind of where I stood with what I saw.
All right, Crystal.
Yeah, to piggyback off of Dr. Tate, I got interested because of the voids that I observed in Jada and August. So both of them are the children of addicts. So when you have a parent that's an addict, they are automatically emotionally immature. So, for example, there are certain things you're supposed to get from your parents, like they're supposed to be able to communicate that they see you, they delight in who you are authentically. They are a safe space for you. You can count on them. They are dependable. And so when you don't get that from your parent, you have an internal void to your core. And so in August's case, it is, well, since I'm not getting it from my parents, I might as well grow up so that I can find this somewhere else. Hence, let me make this bond, this connection with this married woman, Jada, who also has a void, which is why she continues to be unhappy in her marriage. So we are looking for spouses and partners to fulfill voids that our parents were supposed to fill, but yet we are always unfulfilled because our partner was never designed to fill the void that our parent left. they will never make you feel as safe as your parent was supposed to feel. They will never love you as genuinely and as authentically as your parent was designed to make you feel. But when we get together in these relationships, we think it's great because we bonded over the trauma that we've experienced. And then after a while, the emotional high goes away and we realize I am still lonely to my core. And now the entanglement has to end.
That right there is the whole, like, we can end this right now, because that right there is really the root of the cause.
Mm-hmm.
And I say to all the time, to people all the time, and I have this conversation with my niece, she's out in the dating world, and I'm like, you know what? Date as many men as you like. Do you be safe, whatever. But what I need you to understand is, don't look for somebody to bring you happiness. You've got to be happy with yourself. And that is the part that I appreciated that Jada did say and acknowledge. She talked about how she was unhappy, and I don't know how she thought that this little boy or this young man was going to bring her happiness or whatever the case may be. I'm gonna tell y'all what I think it is she wanted sex. She wanted sex a certain kind of way. He gave it to her. That's what she was happy about. But in the morning, she realized that was not enough because it did not fulfill her. I mean, listen. That's what I took from it.
Okay. All right, Tamika. So I want to, Crystal, you are absolutely right that if you listen to what Jada said, she said that she was trying to fix herself by fixing him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they were trauma bonded, if you want to use that catchphrase. They felt that connection to one another because of the similar past and the similar history that they had. But that's where I go back to that emotional connection, that bond that they had from a shared experience can be much stronger than any physical attraction. In my estimation, and I don't know them and I haven't been in their house, I don't believe that they were physically attracted to one another. Well, let me back that up. I don't think Jada was physically attracted to August until they got emotionally connected.
Oh, okay.
Now, I think Og was like, yeah, this Jada Pinkett, right? Like, come on.
Right?
And that's just my assessment. I don't know. It's just an assessment. But there's some comments about, an open marriage. And I think that it is important to address this concept because no one can define what that means except the people in it.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we sit back and we judge what could have happened, should have happened, oh, did she step out of the boundary? Did she not? We don't know that. All we know is what we see on the screen. And if I'm reading body language and if I'm assessing them, if they were my clients, which they are not, but if I'm assessing them, I see Will's frustration about not being able to address the situation the way he wants to, being forced to address it publicly, but then he can't even say what he wants to say.
Right. Oh, I agree. Okay, right. Wait, we got some comments, y'all. People like they throwing them at us. Let's see. So Kimberly wants to know, are we not okay with women dating younger men? That's not an issue for me.
No, that has nothing to do with it at all.
Right. I agree.
I think that comes from everybody saying she could have been his son. Oh, he's half her age. That question about the age difference in dating, period, I think is coming out, and it's being conflated with the double standards of the way that we look at women dating younger men versus men dating younger women.
Right, absolutely. For me, like I said, I don't really care. Like, as long as they're of legal age, that's all I care about. My concern is that was her child's friend. Like, that's my issue with the age. Like, no, don't do that. So she talked about, she said, boom, Will left Jada. He says that he was done with her. He absolutely were. And so I think what we should also state is that they were separated, quote unquote, whatever that looked like to them, and whatever the goal was for them to go out and do whatever they planned to do. For me, the issue, which is why I said I don't feel like entanglement was the right word for her to use, and kind of from what I gathered from watching the show actually happened. Yes, he said he left her. They were in a period of time where they were separating. So for me, I guess in that case it really wasn't an affair, but it still kind of was. They still married,
So that's the thing. Like, separated is still married. Like, you know, I was talking to my husband about this, and, you know, when you mentioned that so many people have their own entanglements, a lot of that happens when, you know, you're separated and like, okay, I'm separated, I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do because I'm not with my spouse anymore. Legally, you are still married. So if, you know, in full disclosure, when I met my husband, he was separated. Like, I was like, oh, okay, that means you're still married. So, right. I was like, okay, that means you're still married. So let me come back over here to my corner, because whatever I want to happen cannot happen, because I cannot put myself in a situation and take the chance that we get, you know, caught up and I fall in love with you and you like, you know what, I think I'm gonna go back to my wife. Right. I was not gonna put myself in that situation. And separated is still married. No matter how mad you are at each other, you are still legally married.
Yes. So, okay. So Kimberly also wants to say, why are we dragging Jada? I don't feel like we dragging Jada. Do y'all feel like we dragging Jada? I don't think we dragging Jada. And if you do, stay tuned, because I got some thoughts about Will too. We ain't get to him yet.
No, it's not a dragging of Jada at all, because, you know, like we started talking about at the beginning of this conversation, we are not in their marriage. We're not in their house and living their life. This is a conversation about the situation and the potential implications that it can have for other relationships and other marriages. We're not dragging Jada at all.
Right, absolutely. Like, you know, I totally believe what works for your marriage doesn't have to work for mine. I'm only tending my own marriage. I can't tend other people's. It's too much work. It is too much work. But Kimberly also feels that by the time Jada and Augie, or Aug as they're calling him, hooked up, he was no longer sick. Now that's not. Yeah, I don't think that either. I think that he was in the process. He was going through the steps to get healed, and in the process of that, that's when he hooked up with her. That's kind of how I took it, but you know, I could be wrong.
And I mean, I haven't gone all the way down the hole, but like when she was talking about on the video, she was like, he came to us, he needed help, we got him all of these resources, blah blah blah. So I don't know if she was trying to play therapist or if they got him professional help. You know, at what point does someone say, okay, part of your healing, you don't need to be in a relationship, you don't need to, you know, cross this barrier with this woman who has inserted herself as a mother figure into your life? Like, did those conversations happen, or was somebody just playing therapist and saying, hey, you know, I think this is what's going to work for you, and now you're better? That's not how that works.
Right. And I'm not. I don't feel like I'm dragging Jada either. I just feel like there's a certain point where you have to hold someone accountable. And if she is going to present herself as a healing and change agent, then you need to take a step back and do some introspection. And instead of going around and trying to fulfill and make sure everybody else is correct, be uncomfortable and deal with your own voids.
Crystal, you're getting a lot of hate mail when this is over.
But that's the point that I didn't like about Jada bringing herself to the red table, is see that, you know, Will was angry, rightfully so, for whatever reason, whether it was because, you know, some dude out there is basically making him a punk, saying that he let this dude smash his wife, whether it was he was mad that he had to talk about it publicly, or as one of the memes that I saw, which is terrible, but it's funny, that he couldn't kill her because then she would just end up with Tupac.
That's so.
That's horrible.
That is funny. So, you know, what I didn't appreciate about the way Jada brought herself to the table was that she didn't do anything and didn't put herself in any position that she would have forced any of her other guests to be. She would have required her guests to be authentic, to be open, to be honest, to be truthful, because I think truthful and honest are different. And she didn't do that. And obviously Will didn't want to push her there, but he had to. And I'm sure that created even more tension, right? So what we are seeing is the evolution of, as Dr. Screw said, them reliving this thing that they didn't want to go back to in real time. And I think it's important for us. I appreciated that they were brave enough to bring it to the public, because as we have all said, we gonna go and sweep our stuff under the rug. We ain't gonna put our business out there in the public for everybody to consume, because all they really want is the tea to begin with. But I appreciate that they were brave enough to bring it to the public, because a very good friend and wise woman once told me that you can tell your story without telling your business. And that's what they did. And telling their story will help other people. Like, we're having this whole conversation, 4 mental health professionals in the room talking about what we see to help other people evaluate how they can move forward in their relationships because they told their story. They didn't have to tell all their business to do that. But I wish Jada would have been more forthcoming in the way she brought herself to the table.
Yeah, but I told you guys, like, for me, that's why I clicked off, because when she started saying, yes, we got into an entanglement, and Will is like, what? A what? And then she was like, a relationship. For me, at that point, I was like, yeah, I don't need to watch this anymore. You know, like, they bought, like, this her show. She brought it to the table to control the narrative. And someone in the comments already said that. She controlled the narrative. She said what she wanted people to know. And clearly, we already know that they went on the show because the media was talking and they needed to get ahead of it to basically be like, yeah, this is what happened. Here, we're going to give you this. Now move on. And so much of that was not dissected. And I don't know if Augie even had the time to really heal from all of it and what happened. And does anybody even know, like, why did he even say anything in the beginning? Like, how did we even get here?
So what I saw on the Facebook interwebs is that he has an album coming out and he was building hype around, like, building up controversy so people would, you know, look him up and his mind would be on the forefront. I don't know. I've never heard a song that the dude has made. I don't know anything about him other than this situation. But that was one thing that I heard, was that it was like a publicity stunt to put all of their business out there to drum up, you know, more attention for him. I don't know. That's just what I heard.
Okay, we have another comment. So Tajma responded and said, basically, absolutely, you have to be happy for yourself. You cannot depend on another to basically bring purpose to your happiness. She's absolutely correct. And that's totally with what we talked about initially. Let's see. Allison is saying she thinks Anitra is spot on. She thinks Will look upset, hurt, angry, you name it, the whole time, because he was manipulated into being out there with their business in a way that he wasn't comfortable with. So let's talk about Will, because everyone is saying that, you know, we dragging Jada. Let's talk about Will. So I watched him, and yes, he absolutely looked uncomfortable. First of all, I was like, dude, why aren't you cleaned up? Like, why do you look scruffy? Like, come on, like you didn't gotta look like that. And so I felt like that was him playing the part. Like, let me look, you know, beaten, and, you know, so people to be on my side. To me, it wasn't a side to be on, but that's the first thing I thought when I saw it. And then he's talking, and he's like trying to pull the information from her. And at some point, I felt like it was more he was trying to embarrass her than really just have the truth be out. Because, you know, there are lots of rumors that they're swingers, they have an open marriage, that he's been stepping out and he's been doing this and doing that. And I think that he felt like, well, this is my time for it not to be me being the one who's messed up the marriage, but it to be you. So I felt like he was really trying to, you know, show her up. Like, look, everybody, look at her. So what are your thoughts?
Oh, okay. No, okay. So a comment, like a friend here posted the comment, and posted about the whole situation, and I jumped in and I was like, you know, and I was like, it pissed me off how nonchalantly she was like, well, you know, it was an entanglement. And so my perspective on it was, when he responded like entanglement, like, it felt like he felt like she was trying to minimize the situation. And then listening, you know, further in the conversation, he said something like, I feel like I need to get back at you for this. And then she said, well, you already did, but I'm gonna let you have your petty. And I was like, okay, so y'all been doing this to each other back and forth for a minute. But, you know, like you said, Tamika, now that it's out, he's trying to make her look bad because he was doing it and getting away. That's just my opinion on what I saw.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think he was trying to make her look bad. I think, unfortunately, and again, that's why I think they should have done it differently if she was going to bring herself to the table, and that someone should have brought them both to the table, because
like Ayana Van Zant needs to bring me
him having to be the one to push her now flips this dynamic, and it makes us try to analyze, okay, well, what's happening between them, as opposed to someone from the outside looking in saying, okay, let's look at this situation as a whole, right? Because my husband and I watched it a few times, and there was one point where they were talking about, having gone through it, having talked about it, when they decided they were going to reconcile and they decided they were going to come back together. And if you watch the body language. Will literally talk like this through his teeth because he was
angry.
He was physically expressing the emotional distress that he was having to it, number one, and then talk about it in person. So no matter how long ago it was, no matter how long, they had it, I also think the challenge is, he can't come at this dude for saying something that they don't believe is true. Og said he allowed me to do it. They clearly don't believe that that's true, but he can't come at this dude in the way he wants to because now the world is watching. And if he does that, oh, you $1 million Will coming at this little dude trying to ruin his life, right? So, there's a lot of different complexities that went into that. And I have empathy for both of them because the situation is difficult. But I wish someone else would have brought them both to the table and then we would have different perspectives.
I agree. I wish someone else was there to kind of facilitate that conversation a little easier. But I also feel like perhaps his being unmanicured or unshaven and stuff like that, that it was just really impromptu. That's how I saw it. That they weren't planning to do it. It was like, look, we got to do this. Let's just do it. And kind of did it out of like frustration. Like, nah, I ain't getting dressed up for this. Let's just do this. And that it was really kind of like, let's get this over with. So I kind of saw it as still just a point of frustration. I do wonder about Will's resentment, anger, frustration with not with having an affair with somebody who can't even keep it discreet. Mm-hmm. That's what I wonder, because we've talked for years about, whether they have this open marriage or not, whatever, but it's been very discreet. Mm-hmm. There's been speculation, there's been wondering, there's been, eyes looking at this or whatever have you, but it's been very discreet. And so I wonder if his frustration was like, I can't believe you got me in this situation, that you had an affair with this little boy who can't even keep his mouth shut. And now I'm looking crazy. You know what I'm saying? And so I felt like his defensiveness may have been, I don't want to say misdirected, because I still think some of it is unhealed between Will and Jada, but also towards August, and he can't clap back.
I completely agree. Mm-hmm. I felt like the frustration was due to the fact that who they represented themselves to be was now clashing with who they are really. Yeah. So August has pulled back the blinds, revealed who we really are, and it is nowhere near who we have presented ourselves to be for decades. And that pisses me off.
Absolutely. Because he said from the very beginning, our plan was to never talk about any of this. Right. And I think that's been their plan the whole time. They haven't talked openly about any of whatever affairs or things going on behind the scenes. And here we are, got to talk about this foolishness. And so I saw that as a major point of frustration. I wonder how, this affected their children. I think Crystal brought up a great point in the very beginning about, if this was my friend and I brought them to you for help, and then you guys wind up entangled, that just feels gross. Like exactly. Here, Mom. You know what I'm saying? So I do wonder how Will and Jaden felt about it. And they seem to have a very open communication system in their family in general. And that is what I do commend them for the way that they communicate. And I think that the children, there's been discussion about how the children are treated and how they're, too mature for their ages and all of that stuff. But I think what it all comes down to is they are really trying to cultivate individual personal healing. Like whatever you're feeling, be genuinely in it, and you have the right to feel it and go through whatever you need to go through in order to get on the other side of it. That is what I see often in the conversations they have on the red table. And even when they're talking about their own personal stuff, they talk about it from the perspective of having been through it. And this is how I look back on it. Mm-hmm. But this became so fresh that I think it was unhealed and they weren't ready to talk about it, and they were forced to do so.
Got it. Okay, wait. So let's get to some of these comments that we have here. Yes, people have said they're not dragging Jada, but they feel like she lacked some sincerity, and basically they didn't have to share their business, but she did set the tone. So apparently, Kimberly does agree that he should have had to sign an NDA, which I'm absolutely surprised didn't happen.
But wait a minute, you assume that it didn't happen. Signing an NDA doesn't keep you from talking. It just means you can get sued if you do.
Right, I agree, but I think that the assumption has become that he didn't sign one, which makes no sense. Absolutely, which makes no sense. It's the reason we don't know about any of the women that Will apparently got back, with. You know what I mean? Because of this NDA, we're gonna clearly state. So it makes you wonder: was Jada upfront about what was happening? Happening. So it makes you wonder. Hence the reason maybe there isn't an NDA, or maybe there is. We don't know, because I can't imagine that he's even going to attempt that. They would even attempt to sue him, because it would just look bad at this point. But I don't know.
Yeah.
But think about that, right? So my husband and I had this conversation, and I slightly disagree about the idea of being still legally married. Not because I don't think that it's true, but because we were discussing, is it cheating? Right? They both said we were on our way out. We weren't coming back together. I didn't ever think I was going to speak to you again. You were done with me. Like, these are quotes. Like, I'm not making this up, right? So in order or at that time, did either one of their mindsets have anything to do with what would be their future? Probably not. So did they need to sign an NDA? I don't know. Did they think it was cheating? Absolutely not. Were they frustrated and angry and emotional about having to get over it once they decided to reconcile? Yes. But what happened in that space when it happened, that's looking at the world from a totally different point of view than it is looking at it in retrospect.
For me, I was when you asked, was it cheating? I mean, legally, it's cheating. Spiritually, and in the covenant of marriage, it's cheating. From a health and mental health perspective, I just always encourage people to close one door before you open another. And it just seemed like it was true after how long they've been together, 20 some odd years they've been together. There's no way that she could have gotten into the relationship with entanglement with August and felt like this is going to be my new normal. Like, there's no way that she had healed from whatever brought Will and Jada to the point of, I'm done with you, go about your business. There's no way that door was fully closed.
And at the end, they say, bad marriage for life. Which we'll talk about that, in a minute. But I feel like, through all the things that have occurred in their marriage since they've been together, they've been on shows talking about this with the ex-wife, and and he talked about what went wrong, and he's talked about his past, with his father being abusive and how important family is to him. So even though Will said, I was done with you, I have to wonder, is that really what he meant? Or was that just what he was saying in that moment? Because I really believe that it's a ride or die type situation. Like, we in this, like my husband and I joke all the time, like, we in this, only way we going out is in a box. It is what it is. And so I feel like that's really where they were. Hence the reason why they were so comfortable in turning that tune and, with the Bad Boys thing. So I don't know that her doing this entanglement was because she really thought her marriage was over. I really feel like it was something to do.
And so let me ask this question real quick. So tying in, piggybacking on Tamika and Dr. Screws, you mentioned, how their communication style is in their marriage. And like Anitra and I have talked about, the communication in the toolbox that she has. If they have such a wonderful, or such a progressive way of communicating, like, I don't understand how they could have that communication within their own family and still not be able to communicate with each other and then be in this situation now. Like, I don't understand how you can talk to everybody else but not talk to each other. Like, how did you get here if you have such a progressive?
But that's easy. I mean, think about it. How it's real easy for me to tell you what to do in your relationship and not take my own advice.
Well, but and I don't even think so. I'm not even sure that I agree that they didn't have that communication. Like I said, like that one moment where Will was like gritting his teeth and clenching his jaw, you could tell that they have been in this, right? They have had this conversation. They've been in it. They got in the weeds. They got their hands dirty. I think what happened right now is that they were forced to do it publicly.
Okay.
And they had already done it behind closed doors. They'd already done it privately, you know, and now they're being forced to do it publicly. And that's a little bit different to have that conversation, not just even publicly, but in front of the whole world, right? You know, like we talking about Will Smith, like the entire world is watching them have this conversation, and he can't disintegrate in these 13 minutes on this video because the whole world is watching. That's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of emotional distress. Like, just watch his body language. His face gets flushed. His heart rate goes up. You can see him entering fight or flight in the process of having this conversation and attempting to, you know, de-escalate and regulate his emotional responses. While Jada, on the other hand, completely pulls back. Like, I was watching, I think it was Kevin on stage, I was watching, and they were like, Jada wasn't even at the table. She didn't even touch the table at all. Right. He pulls back and retreats within herself, which forces him to have to come forward. So I think that they had already had the conversation in private, and now that they have to have it in public, she's not doing it the way that they may have discussed doing it, because it seems like, you know, at least what she had done before with other guests, you know, he was trying to be like, look, be real. And she wasn't trying to be real.
Right. Absolutely. Right.
That creates a totally different dynamic on top of the complexity of what it is that they were there to talk to begin with.
Absolutely. So Kimberly asked if we'd seen the Red Table Talk with her and Will before, where, you know, he talks about he wanted to give her everything and it was on his terms and she didn't want it. So that is absolutely an episode that I watched, because at one point I really used to watch the show. And that's part of the reason why I say I feel like they are ride or die. You know, they talked about that in that episode where he says, you know, I was trying to give her all the things that I thought she wanted would make her happy. You know, and they talked about the importance of finding happiness in yourself. And I think that's part of the reason why I felt like that show was so inauthentic. It wasn't authentic. It just wasn't for me, because I'm like, these are things you guys talked about years ago when you first put this show together, where he said he realized, you know, love languages, you know, my love language is not your love language. I can't make it your love language. You got to find what yours is and share it with me. And we know, and, you know, we get back to what makes you happy, what makes me happy, because that's what makes couples, you know, pretty much stay together. So they talked about all these things. And that is part of the reason why I was not feeling that show, guys. I'm telling y'all, I wasn't. I don't know. Let's see. Okay, look. Jewel is saying she'll take a hard pass on the bad marriage for life, please. We may have challenging days or times in season, but she refuses to accept a bad marriage. All right, so let's talk about that, because I really feel like a bad marriage is what you define it as. Because, you know, for one person, a bad marriage might be totally different for the next person. So, you know, I feel like, you know, we talked about this before we came on, how everyone is like, oh, cheating for me is a dead ringer. I'm out of here. And I feel like, I don't know any married person that would be like, yeah, me too, because I feel like you don't really know what you're going to do until you're faced with the situation. I mean, quite frankly, you don't. Marriage is hard work. I'm trying to tell y'all, it's hard work. And, you know, people, and I tell you this to people all the time when they're like, oh, they send me announcements about getting engaged or whatever. I'm like, are you sure? It's not too late. Right? You know, and it is nothing personal. You know, I love my husband. He is an amazing husband, but it's a lot of work. And I think that, you know, because we all let the world see the beautiful things, and because it's no one's business really what goes on behind closed doors, people often have a misconception, you know, that, oh, marriage is all eating berries and fruit. It's not. It is really
Some days you won't cut that dude.
That's an understatement, but you know, that's for another show. It was also mentioning how August was trying to pull a Beyonce, Jay-Z, and Salon situation, you know, where Jay-Z got those albums off of that Infidelity, because, you know, to the left, that's my jam. But anyway, I mean, so come on, guys, let's wrap this up and really, I guess. Let me see. What is my question? So, for the person who is watching the show, and I guess dealing with an entanglement of their own, what is your suggestion to them? Anybody?
One of the questions when I have people on my couch, so to speak, and or they come to me and they're saying they have some sort of something brewing in the background, one of the questions I always ask is the energy that you're putting in your entanglement, can you put that back into your marriage? Because if you're not giving your 100% in the marriage, then it's too much opportunity for division. And so whether that means you guys go to counseling, whether that means you go to counseling individually, sometimes people have their own stuff. And so we've said it a couple of times, and this is really the direction I take when I'm doing premarital counseling is, who were you before this person walked into your life? What emotional legacy do you bring? What abuses do you bring? What trauma do you bring? What culture do you bring? Because all of that is going to manifest itself. It's going to come, head to head when you guys are in the same house Monday through Sunday. Those are the things that manifest. And so sometimes some of the things that you are blaming your spouse for are really a manifestation of something that was happening before you even knew their name. And so when you come to terms with that stuff, when you can really be honest about what is driving your entanglements, or what is driving the void, or what is who's driving the bus of you, who is driving you, like what is really your motivator, what are you looking for, what are you trying to get, what is your level of investment? All of those things need to really be, you need to know that about you so that you can communicate it to your spouse and make sure that they are in it for that. I had a conversation with so I've had a bad marriage. I'm a bad marriage for life. I've had two. My current marriage is amazing and I love him to pieces, but I've been in bad marriage zone and it is not fun. What I will say is sometimes when we're in love and we like him, I like him, he likes me, we're dating, things are going well, we ignore the things that are bad about that person, or we minimize the things, or we think that we'll fix it, or we think it'll get better. Women tend to marry potential. And so the one that's in front of you, who you are actually marrying, may not match the idea that you have in your head. And so then when it starts to go south and the deal breakers start to come up, the infidelities, or he's always drinking, or he's got, a bad attitude, or he works too much, or he's not affectionate enough, all these things come up, then it's like, this is a bad marriage. Well, it was really bad before you got married, but you didn't see it. And now that you had some time in it, it feels awful.
Absolutely.
So
well,
there's a lot of self-work that needs to happen before you marry yourself with somebody.
But that's why they always talk about, that 5-year hump, because it's like, once all the cuteness wears off, oh, that thing he used to do that was so cute. It's like, okay, it ain't cute no more. Now what? And I agree. I think that, so many people are in love with the idea of marriage and don't realize that it comes with a lot of work.
Absolutely. Or they think it's time to get married. Well, who said who? Like, just because the calendar says a certain thing, or your birth date says a certain thing, or because your biological clock is ticking, that doesn't mean you are emotionally prepared for the work that comes with marriage. It's really an emotional work with yourself. Would you marry yourself? Do you like yourself that much?
I do.
I do. I like you,
Tamika. What I would say to someone who may be finding themselves in an entanglement, as one who has been in an entanglement, is try to understand or try to assess where you are in that process, right? Like, there's a whole bunch of literary work and research and education on, what it means to be in an affair. And the one that I like the most is there's 4 stages to an affair. The first is compromise, where you are at a point where you are willing to compromise your values, your standards, your marriage, your relationship, your agreements, your vows, because you are intrigued by the potential. As Dr. said, you're intrigued by the potential. And then the second is secrecy. When you get to a point where you start keeping secrets about what it is that you are interested in, that you're thinking about, that you want to do, that kind of thing, That's when you can then move into, and this is going to be the really nerdy part, you can move into the reward centers in your brain, the dopaminergic effect, what is called that dopamine reward system, right? Like it's almost like when you're playing a video game, right? You will get only so far before they snatch the reward from you, right? And then you have to keep putting in quarters, or you have to keep playing the game, or you have to keep, doing whatever it is to keep it going. Understand where you are in the process of getting that reward from this interaction, right? Like what is rewarding about it? What are you feeling about it? Are you still at that super high level, or is it starting to wane? Are you getting to the point where this isn't as rewarding as you might have thought it was? And then that last part is making a decision. And if you can shorten the process between the compromise and the decision, then you can find a way to either come out of the entanglement and go back to whatever your commitment was prior to that, or decide that you're going to move on, because that decision doesn't have to be the same for everyone, but you have to determine if it is worth it to you. And as Dr. Scruse has said, what are you fulfilling within yourself by engaging in this process that you feel like you can call it entangled, right? Because if we're entangled, that means we're caught up in something we can't get out of that maybe we didn't want to be in to begin with.
Right.
And so you really have to decide, what reward are you getting from this, and is it worth the risk that you're walking away from?
That's part of the reason why I said I don't feel like she used the right word, because you said, you're in the entanglement is you basically caught up in something you didn't want to be in. I don't think that I think she wanted to be caught up in it. And so that's why I was like, I don't feel like she was using the proper terminology. But we have another comment where Tanya is saying that she knows a couple that went to counseling. And of course, it wasn't effective because they were basically being counseled on lies. They were too embarrassed to be honest. Why go if you're not willing to be transparent? Woo! I think that is common. You guys agree? Crystal and Dr. Tate Scrooge, you guys agree? Yeah, I feel like that's often, I'm not a counselor. I have no interest in it. Like, I don't know how y'all do it, because me listening to people's problems all day would drive me crazy. But that's just me. But when you see how, like, with Dr. Yana Van Zant, when she did her show and she brought out like the lies that were coming out and how she was frustrated and how it was like she was so angry because now you got to start all back over. So it has to be a frustrating process. So how do you guys get around
that? Everyone lies. That's just the gist of it. You just assume that whoever's sitting on your couch is lying. And they really can only communicate from their level of revelation and from their level of comfort. And so the therapeutic process is really about, yes, you're trying to repair your relationship, but you're really trying to be honest with yourself and where you are. I can't count how many times I hear, this sounds terrible saying it out loud. Yes, it does. Say it out loud anyway, because it's bouncing around inside of you, inside of your thoughts. And that's what's driving your bitterness and your anger and your resentment, because you feel something and you won't say it out loud. And then you act on it to try to fix it in your own way without connecting with your partner. So yes, it sounds horrible to say it out loud, but it takes the building of the relationship to get to the point where you just have to say how you feel. Okay, good. Now that we know this is messy and ugly, let's deal with it from that space. But if you sugarcoat stuff, then I can only help you as much as you want to help yourself.
Right. And so with that noted, for those that find themselves in an entanglement, I would say you have to be honest. Like, if you are August and you're just looking for someone to love you, or if you're Jada and you're just looking for someone who needs you, or if you're Will and you realize you just stayed here a little bit too long, be honest about those things and then go get what you need individually instead of bringing people into your circle to try to bring that to you.
Yeah, I agree. I think sometimes with marriage counseling, when people come into marriage counseling, some of them are in there because they know it's over and they want me to confirm it for them. Yep. Like they sitting there like just tell me it's over. I'm not willing to invest. There's usually one person who's more invested than the other.
Always.
And usually when I get a phone call from a couple that says, we need to get in counseling right away. Oh, you just found out he cheated on you. Or you just found out there's another, like it's a crisis. We got to get it right away. But if I wait 48 hours and call them later, they're done. They're already like broke up or split up or whatever. It's like, I have to come to counseling to fix this. That's not going to fix this. This is a work that you have to do within you. And so I absolutely agree with everybody that there's some work that needs to be done. The couples have to figure out what level of commitment they're on. But I 100% agree that you can go to counseling by yourself and still be getting insight and awareness into who you are to fix your marriage. You don't always have to have your spouse or significant other sitting next to you.
That's a really important fact that you made, because I do think that oftentimes couples, they feel like we've got to go to this together. Meanwhile, often the part of what is happening is about you individually. And sometimes you do need to have someone help you digest what's going on and break it down. That's a great point. That's a great point.
And I agree that people, as I said earlier, I think being truthful and being honest are different. Being truthful is about facts. People will bring facts to the table all day long, but being honest is about feelings, and they won't be honest about those facts. And that's what happens when you're engaging with a emotionally distressful situation, especially in a relationship where two people are coming together to discuss the fact, but their reality about those facts is different, and their feelings about those facts are also different.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Catherine, you look like you were going to say something.
Yeah, I apologize. Somebody already said this. My janky internet dropped. But my background before I was in counseling and blogging and all of the independent business owner stuff, I come from a background of emergency preparedness and response. Mm-hmm. So my outlook on things, including relationships, has always been to be proactive instead of reactive. And, speaking to what Dr. Screws said, if you are not even willing to put in the work and realize that, I'm not perfect, I'm not a whole person, and there's nothing that I need to fix. If you can't even admit that that is a lie about yourself, then you're not ready for marriage, because you cannot bring a broken person into a relationship with another broken person and think that everything is going to be okay. Like, you have individual things that you need to deal with before you can even begin to grasp the idea of trying to address and live with somebody else's brokenness. Like marriage, like I have an amazing marriage. I love my husband. We are two broken people who still deal with issues every single day because we have, past hurts, past situations that we have to face and deal with every single day of our marriage to keep our marriage healthy. And if you're not even willing to think about doing that, you're not ready for marriage. Like, just don't do it. Like, do the work ahead of time before you even get into the marriage, because you're gonna have enough that you got to deal with once you're in it. And the whole like, this is my breaking point, this is what I'm not going to deal with, all of that changes once you deal with who you are and the kind of person that you're bringing into that marriage. My husband and I, like when we got into the work that we're doing, like I said, he was separated when I met him. He was like, I'm never getting married again. We went into it where he was like, we need to make sure we're on the same page before I even consider.
Uh-oh. She froze. I know. She was getting at the good part, too. Fix your janky internet, man.
Girl, I don't know what's going on over here. It's so
you were at the good part, and then you froze. We all like...
it's hot. We've been having like brownouts where like our power's been going in and out the last couple of days, but I'll speak quickly. When we decided that we were, even thinking about getting married, we did, 20 hours of what we called pre-engagement counseling, where we talked to like other married couples and we're like, how do you handle this situation? Like, we had 4 pages of questions that we asked couples and said, how do you deal with this? What would you do in this situation? How should we address this, to make sure we were on the same page? And then after we got engaged, we did 40 hours of premarital counseling. So doing all of that and still recognizing that every day we have issues that we have to deal with. Like, if you're not willing to put in the work, you're not going to make it. Like, marriage is a beast. And As much as I love my husband, if the good Lord ever takes him, I got a dog. I'm not doing this again.
Okay, I don't know what just happened. Did you guys hear what she said at the end? Okay,
Yeah.
good. I heard like bits and pieces of it. Perfect. Okay. So wait, we have another question. It looks like Tanya wants to know, have you ever had, any of you had a case where you knew that you couldn't help break the negative outlook on themselves or the relationship? Oh, that's a good question.
Yes.
They're like, yeah, oftentimes.
There's been just a few couples that I pretty much said, you two do not need to be together. Not in this space, not in this time. My suggestion is that you break up, that you each go to counseling for yourselves, you really do the work, and then see if you want to be back with each other. And again, I do that because you really have to do this self-work, and trying to bleed all that work onto someone else is tough. It is hard trying to fix someone or feel like somebody needs to fix something. And it's frustrating when you see the same problem manifesting itself and the person doesn't seem to be changing. It's very frustrating to be in partnership in that space. And so sometimes you just need fresh eyes on it. Like you need space. The Bible says take refuge. Be prudent, take refuge. So you take refuge and you just get yourself together. Get your mind right. Would you choose them from a healthy place? Maybe you chose them from an unhealthy place. If you were healthy, would you make the same decision? And would he choose you?
Wow. Okay.
Well, it's fair to put someone in that position to always feel like they're the ones that need to be fixed. And then also try to fix them while you're not trying to work on you.
Yeah. And when one spouse has noisier behaviors than the other, whatever it is, then it's very easy for them to get the blame because because they cheated or because he's an alcoholic or because, whatever that is. That doesn't mean you don't have issues of your own. I was in a marriage in which there was some noisy behaviors going on, and I had more than enough ammunition to say, he was this or he was that or he was that. But at the end of the day, I had to ask myself, what was I doing in that marriage in the first place? And so if I didn't ask myself those questions and check myself, then I was going to make the same mistakes moving forward. And I was very clear I did not want an unhealthy, bad marriage. I didn't want it, but I was in it. So how did I get there? And I can blame him all I want, but I made some choices in that situation as well. So I had to put myself at the table. I really had to do some work. Like the journey is really with yourself as you try to marry somebody else.
Whew. Okay, well, we are at an hour, ladies. Thank you so much. This has been great. We've got to all get back together again and talk about, because clearly there are going to be other entanglements that we probably need to come on and share the news about. But I want to thank you. Are you out there who have given us these amazing comments? We thank you. We will go through when we're done with the recording and try to respond and answer to them. Please keep posting. If you're watching the replay, you can comment. We will comment as well. If you are in need of some counseling, Crystal and Dr. Tate Cruz are available. Totally reach out to them. I'll make sure that we have their links posted so you can check them out. Also, go and check out the Mom on the Move and Be Yoked because they have lots and information for you as well. But we've come to the end. I want to say everybody have an amazing weekend, and I will see you all next week. Bye.